उसी साइड से दिक्कत है, हमें यहाँ से दिक्कत नहीं है।
I think my video is visible now. Good morning, all.
Good morning, madam. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes,
I could
ma'am.
see myself. Yeah.
Your video is
Okay.
visible. Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. I joined from a different system. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Good morning, and we are to start this session. We are going to start this session in a couple of minutes. So kindly wait till 11 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Javji. Good morning, and we are to start this session. We are going to start this session in a couple of minutes. So kindly wait till 11 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Javji. Good morning, and we are to start this session. We are going to start in a couple of minutes. So kindly wait till 11 a.m. Thank you. Good morning, and we welcome you all for this session on emerging technologies and cybersecurity. In this particular session, we are going to deal with these, like what are the kind of risks which we are facing, and the challenges and solutions as part of this session. Good morning, and we are to start once this again session. We welcome you all for this Cyber Jagrutta Divas session. So kindly wait till. Thank you. Good morning, and we welcome you all
Yes,
for
sir, your
this
voice is
session on
repeating.
emerging technologies and cybersecurity.
Jagdish, sir.
In this particular session, we are
Jagdish,
going to deal with these, like what are the.
Jagdish, sir, your
Yes,
voice
sir.
is repeating. Your voice is repeating multiple times.
Sorry. Sibi ma'am, you start. I will come there. You please start.
okay, sir. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all the participants, guests, officials, speakers of the webinar or the awareness session on the occasion of Cyber Jagrukta Divas for MITI and its organization. Information Security Education and Awareness, ISEA, an initiative by HRD Division of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. ISEA aims to spread mass awareness on cybersecurity targeted towards various user segments with CDAC Hyderabad as coordination agency for National Awareness Program, besides education and training in information security domain. Today, ISEA conducts the workshop or the webinar on cybersecurity, especially for the officers and staff of MITI and its organizations. The webinar aims to make the participants aware about the various cybersecurity threats and hygienic digital device usage practices to safeguard themselves against such kind of threats. This session is organized as part of Cyber Jagrukta Divas as recommended by Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Cyber Jagrukta Divas aims to create awareness on cybercrime and safe cyber hygiene practices among the citizens of India. We sincerely hope this seminar will benefit the participants in understanding the subject and gaining useful information and security tips. Today, we are organizing the session on emerging technologies and cybersecurity, risks, challenges, and solution. A hearty welcome to one and all once again. Before we start the session, we'll know a little about the ISEA, an initiative by MITI. We have with us Mr. Jagdish Babu, who is a project manager for ISEA, and he will be introducing you to this initiative and the project, and then we'll proceed with the session.
So good morning all, and we welcome you for this session once again. As you all know, like we were organizing these Cyber Jagrutta Divas from 23 onwards on various aspects. So now it is the time for us to learn like what are the emerging technologies are evolving, and from that like what kind of risks and challenges which we are facing are going to face, and what are the solution mechanisms. So these we thought like this is the right time to discuss on these aspects with all of you, so that you have to safeguard yourself, at the same time your organization, your family, and entire community are at national level too. Okay, so these things like we were doing this Cyber Jagrata Divas as part of our ongoing program by Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India. So Ministry is implementing ISEA project. Under ISEA project, like we are continuously organizing the cyber cyber uh, Cyber Jagrata Divas on first Wednesday of every month, as per the directions received from the MHA. And the main objective of this initiative is to create awareness among the different stakeholders. Either it could be a government employee or women, student, whoever it is. Now, as part of those things, like we were creating these awareness sessions, especially for ministry and its officials and other ministries and other organizations who are joining from in a virtual mode. So the objective of these sessions are to create awareness among the various group of users in the form of awareness workshops or seminars. We wanted to keep these sessions as much as interactive, so that by end of the day or end of the session you will be learning some of the key points wherein you will be using those things as part of your personal as well as professional life. Okay, so that is one thing which we are doing. And uh, mean to say interactive in the sense, like you can please undergo the session, and if you have any questions, please keep it in the chat area. By end of the session, we request the expert to address all the queries like which you have raised during this session, right? But the questions may not be answered in the mid of the session. So by end of the session, like we'll take up all the questions, and we are going to address all this kind of things. And as part of these sessions, like besides this session, like we're also organizing this quiz competitions kind of thing. I think by end of the session, we are going to share the quiz link with all of you, and you can participate. You can test your knowledge on that particular topic or whatever you learned, and those things. And at the same time, you also can forward that link with your near and dear, so let them assess like what they have learned from the session and what was the takeaway from this particular session. At the same time, like how much knowledge we are having on that particular topic. Okay, so as part of our session, like we are always sharing the best practices, case studies, which are evolving on a real-time basis. So those things we are trying to address, addressed by our expert personalities, right? So by end of the session, like we are also highlighting like what are the key cyber hygiene practices someone should follow as part of their professional as well as personal life. So these are the things, and these are the various topics we have covered as part of different sessions. And today we are having all together a different session on emerging aspects. So as I told you, like we were doing this program under the ISEA. We'll just give you a brief about information security education and awareness project. So in this project, basically we were focusing on four important aspects. The holistic approach in that cybersecurity or information security domain. So the one key component is like we were training the CISOs. CISOs, you all might be knowing, like Chief Information Security Officers. So like once we give the capacity building to the CISOs, so they will be responsible to safeguard that entire ministry, department, or organizations kind of thing. So that they will follow the practices. At the same time, they will try to penetrate these practices among the departments, among the employees, so that the entire organization is safe. Once all organizations are safe, the country is safe. So that's the ultimate aim, of these kind of sessions, of these kind of initiatives. So like we were focusing on the capacity building to the CISOs, either in the form of three varieties, like say CISOs, deputy CISOs, associate CISOs, and all. So for more information, you can always visit ISEA.app kind of thing, so that you will get complete information. So your own organization people also can enroll and can enrich their knowledge on these aspects, so that they can follow these best and best hygiene practices as part of their life. Okay, and we're also offering indigenous capabilities at national level by offering these information security courses at BTech, MTech, and PhD level, so that like we will get the indigenous capabilities, and who can safeguard our nation at whole. And we're also strengthening these research and dedication in information security in the form of FDPs, like capacity building programs to faculties who are offering these kind of courses at national level. And at the same time, like we're also doing these boot camps, hackathons, innovation fairs, and all such kind of things. So all this information, like it is available in the portal. You can always log on to and access those things. And important aspects, fourth important component is like we are also into the cyber aware digital nagarik, which is a mass awareness program. Like you have everything, but once the awareness is not there, like there are always chances that like anything can happen at any point of time, right? For example, like we all know like where to walk, and if some left side of the road kind of thing, like if someone walks something else, if something happens, so that we don't know. In the similar way, like we are having good infrastructure and all, unknowingly or unknowingly clicked on something, so we don't know like where it will lead. That is the reason like we all digital nagariks, there are no doubt, but at the same time, like are we cyber aware digital nagariks? That's the point which we have to carry by end of the day, right? So for that, like we were doing these awareness programs in a large scale at national level, to address these or to facilitate these 1, 2, 3, 4 activities. Like we have a common infrastructure, ISEA virtual academy is there, like where we have huge amount of infrastructure which is available in the form of like what are the quizzes we are doing. We are not doing any third party. It is our own platform, and you might have been registered. Those are also our own our own registration forms, and virtual labs, whatnot. So all such kind of things are available under ISEA virtual academy, which are accessible to all the institutions who are part of this initiative. So more than 50 plus institutions who are participating at national level under this program. Okay, as I told you, like cyber aware digital nagarik program, like we are doing different kinds of activities, awareness workshops, weeks, and community programs. We're also doing that quiz competitions, plays, and all such kind of things. And recently we also announced the uh, grand challenge on creating the localized videos for cyber awareness creation, right? So those aspects are also available in Stay Safe Online. You can visit there and you can participate, or like you can ask your known people to participate in those competitions so that they can show their creativity kind of thing, right? So as I told you, like by end of the session, like we are also going to share the quiz link to check your knowledge. So this is the portal which I'm talking about, and these are the various awareness resources which are available, wherein you can go through and you can enrich your knowledge as an organization, as an individual. You can promote these things within your known channels, or known groups or known people, like all different varieties of awareness resources which are available, which you can access and you can start promoting within your communities too. And as I told you, like we are organizing the quizzes, assessments kind of thing. So this assessment is one step ahead of the quiz to check your competence, complete confidence, competence on that particular topic. For example, if you feel, we feel that like we are comfortable in email usage and email security kind of thing. So to check that, like you can log in there and you can assess yourself, are we aware or not? And based on that, like you will be getting some kind of score quiz and all kind of things, right? So that way, like you have that complete assessment things. And as I told you, like most of the people who are attending this session are employees, so we recommend or we suggest or we request all the people who are participating in this thing, which is available in our Stay Safe Online portal. You can log into the page and you can access this course and you can check your knowledge, so that you can check your knowledge, and you can also enhance your knowledge by undergoing that e-learning courses, which is somewhere around 10 to 12 hours course is there. You can enroll into that course, you can go through that course, and you can enrich the knowledge. At the same time, you will be getting an instant certification also upon completion of the assessment with some kind of percentage. Okay, so these various courses for various stakeholders, since here most of them are employees, you can make use of that thing. And as you know, we are also coming up with ISEA Cyber Ambassador. So we all know, like we cannot cover the nook and corner of the country. So we need to have some extended arms, like who are attending this session. And if you feel like you are able to do something like awareness sessions to schools, colleges, at community, or within your organization kind of thing, you can enroll into this course and you can complete the Cyber Defender course as we shown earlier. Like here we have another course called Cyber Defender. You can complete that Cyber Defender course, submit some required documents to us, and we will also interact with you, and we'll organize one-day training program. Later part, we'll give you the certification. Through that certification, you also can go and organize these awareness workshops at schools, colleges, community, wherever it is. And there are some small financial benefits are also there for organizing such kind of awareness workshops, right? So for organizing today's session on emerging technologies and cyber security, and basically we will be focusing, madam is going to focusing on what were the risks or challenges and what are the solutions. These aspects madam is going to cover as a part of the session. So the session is going to helpful for all of you, and we will introduce madam before we start the session or handing over this session to madam, right?
Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Lakshmi Kalyani Garu, who's available with us right now. I take the privilege of introducing her. Dr. Lakshmi Kalyani is working as Scientist F at Center for Development of Advanced Computing, CDAC, an autonomous society under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Mighty Government of India at Noida. She has more than 25 years of experience at different levels of management, academic, and research areas. Her specialties include project management, corporate trainings, and academic teaching in diverse domains such as e-learning and education technologies, cybersecurity, and AI. She has published more than 22 research papers in these areas in reputed national and international journals and conferences, and guided more than 100 postgraduate projects. She has handled more than 15 sponsored projects from various government ministries and departments like Ministry of Human Resource Development, MHRD, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MIT, Health Ministry, Election Commission, Disaster Management, etc. She has vast experience in cybersecurity and related technologies and has coordinated and set up the first ever Cyber Center Forensics Lab at STF headquarters, Dehradun, Uttarakhand, which is now being used by the STF of Uttarakhand for their cybercrime investigations. She has initiated online education for medical science through online learning platforms and mobile apps for, supplementing the medical fraternity in their medical education through online trainings and interactive e-content. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today and also delivering this session and providing great inputs through the session to the participants. I hope the participants would make best use of it. Thank you, ma'am. I hand over the session to you right now and make you the presenter. I request you to please take over the session.
Thank you, Simi. I'll just share my presentation now first.
Sure, ma'am.
Is it visible? Is my screen visible?
Ma'am, it is visible, ma'am, but make it as a slideshow.
Yeah, I'm doing that. Just a moment. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So good morning, all of you. I'll be just sharing some of the inputs regarding, as my colleagues at Hyderabad, Jagdish Babu, and this had recently just now told, like some of the emerging technologies and the specific threats with these emerging technologies, the risks associated with them, and what would be the possible solutions to deal with that. So I'll just give you an overview at the beginning of the session about a few of the emerging technologies, the cybersecurity threat landscape that these pose, the various certain case studies related to the cybersecurity threats in the particular emerging technologies that I would be discussing, and the best practices and the possible solutions that can be adopted in our daily lives, both as a general user and also as a a technical user, if you want to talk about from a technical perspective also. And then we can have certain Q&A regarding some of the topics that we will be discussing in the session today. So when we talk about the emerging technologies, they basically are like, it is a complete paradox of both being the technology in use for security implementation, the technology for attacking the security itself. So it has a both perspective, hence we call it as the cyber security paradox when we talk about the emerging technologies. So they actually act as a double-edged sword for us, whether we are talking about the artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cloud, internet of things, IoT, and they both are acting as a boon, or they can also act as a threat to us in terms of, say for example, if we say the
Yes.
artificial intelligence itself, like its newer variant, and the like the generative AI has the challenge of deep fakes, the ethics associated with the use of this AI security, the amount of misinformation and data manipulations, all these pose major privacy concerns and many security issues associated with its variants and its usage as such. Similarly, if we talk about the IoT and its integration with the smart infrastructures, the infras, it poses the challenge of ever expanding attack surface, increase in the number of vulnerabilities for the hackers to exploit, and it is continuously expanding only. If we talk about the other emerging technologies, the cloud, then it poses the threat of misconfiguration, identity theft, unauthorized access, data leaks, and many. So we'll be discussing a few of them also in our session today as such. So all these emerging technologies at the same time helping us in our day-to-day lives in improving our in our way we adopt and use the technology benefit of it. At the same time, they also pose a series of risks and perils in terms of general data privacy and its security and financial safety as such. So in this session we'll be trying to see how this is going to both play in terms of the cybersecurity threats and risks apart from the various benefits. So we'll mainly focus on the cyber threats and risks that it is going to pose as such, and what could be the measures that one can adopt in terms of the best practices, both for a layman user, in a general user, and for technical perspective as such. So let us see the threat landscape as such. I am taking it from the 2024 onwards. If we see the speed with which the AI integration in the cyber threats has posed the various threats, the breakout time. So we all know that the moment attacker tries to penetrate that, and the time he is able to actually succeed and expand his move laterally and expand his attack surface as such, we call that as a breakout time. Initially it was the 48 minutes breakout time was the average time in which an attacker initially tries to compromise a system and then spread his attack surface onto the other network, which we call it as the lateral movement of the attack surface. So if that, and for the window, for the defenders, the time to detect and stop that intrusion before it actually spreads, we call that as the breakout time. That was initially, as in 2024 it was as 48 minutes was being recorded as the average breakout time. Now it has come down in now 20, by the end of 2025, and in now 2026 we can say that this breakdown time has come down to as low as 29 minutes. A recent record of the breakout time has been shown to be as even as less as 27 minutes. So if that is the scenario, then we can understand the need for improvising upon the security measures. The fastest attack, the 51-second fastest attack, is being seen as the quickest recorded breakout time, where in case the defenders have less than a minute to respond, which is only realistic when we are able to use automated detection and response mechanisms, and this will not be possible with simple manual monitoring. So we need to move on to real time monitoring and automated defenses for automated detection and response to handle such kind of attacks. The malware free, now attackers get in and operate, is that it is not, no, it is not at all possible to detect it with so much. So they will be having traditional malware detection mechanisms will not be possible to detect. So the attackers use legitimate tools, stolen credentials, built-in system features like the living of the land is the recent trend by which they blend in, which is why the traditional signature based and antivirus tools miss them, and the need is now for highlighting on the behavioral detection patterns. We need to use the UEBA, that is the user and entity behavioral analytics is the need of the hour, with the help of which we can try to overcome these attack scenarios where they actually go completely malware free and detection becomes almost impossible. The primary vector, over 52% of the attacks, is the initial access. When we talk about, over half of the attacks are focused on gaining the first foothold, which we call it with through phishing, stolen credentials, exploiting the already exposed systems. So we these become the primary vector, and to overcome from that, we need to reinforce the need for strong identity security in terms of having a stronger perimeter and identity security through credential hygiene, perimeter defenses, and multi-factor authentications, which would be needed to handle from this initial foothold that the attackers try to gain upon. The activity, so when we talk about the threat actor trends, how they are going to do that activity search in terms of this, we can say that a 150% rise. So it is not specific to one country, it is country sponsored or organization sponsored. It happens where there is a sharp rise in these threat groups that try to increase the geopolitical tension in translating into more cyber activity. The number of adversaries is drastically increasing now. So if you see, tracking a total count at the end of this was 257 as such, where we say offer deep insight into the newer total number of distinct threat groups or the actors that are being monitored, which show that the threat diversity of the attackers and the defenders need to account for these diversity of these attackers that they are continuously growing upon. That needs to taken into account. The newer adversaries, that is at the end of 2024, it was that there has been 26 new adversaries were identified with the evolving threats requiring for adaptive security, and at the end of 2025, 25 new adversaries was reported, and the count is continuously increasing as we are in 2026 as such. So there is this need of trying to implement upon the adaptive security to handle these diverse adversaries and the increase in the number of newer adversaries that are turning it up. So we need to say that the threat, as this threat landscape is continuously expanding, we cannot be remaining static or using manual mechanisms. We need to adopt more and more automated mechanisms through effective AI integration, but at the same time through ethical and in a secure manner in which we are using. So as these attacks are getting faster and stealthier, so initial access is the most contested, we can say the battleground, and the number and diversity of adversaries, especially the state sponsored or the state linked ones, is continuously growing. So this pushes the case for real time behavior based detection and strong identity and perimeter defenses over traditional signature based tools. Based on these cyber threat landscape, if we see, there have been so many global and within India also cyber incidents and key trends that have come up with these emerging technologies, where in my session I'll be focusing more on the emerging technologies of artificial intelligence, internet of things, IoT, and cloud computing as such. So in that particular scenario, if we see, the smart city ransomware attack was the recent one which had become very popular with its implementation, in terms of where they try to exploit any kind of, whether it is traffic management, whether it is your water services that they want to use it, with which they want to get affected as such, and so on. So any kind of this, where we say that is going to be very being utilized as such. So we need to take into account which was there being done in some of the prominent cities across the globe, where the hacker tries to get a hold of a city's computer systems through traffic lights, power outages, emergency lines of water systems or surveillance systems, etc. The Microsoft Office global outage was another such popular case, which actually, in fact, they also had upon that this has been a serious issue, and it took them couple of hours to overcome from that. Then there is this AI generated phishing scams targeting corporate executives, organizations, individuals as such. In fact, we can see once being the AI driven misinformation or the deepfake, where there was popular investment, popular figures like political figures and business figures were utilized to, and in various investment scams were announced, yeah, through these popular figures. And then by the time it was identified that it is actually a fake, and many people had already logged in and said invested. So this has become such popular incidents. Many of them had recently occurred. Supply chain compromise. There is this bad box 2 attack, IoT attack that had occurred, and where which has affected global botnet was there, in which this in compromise was one incident through this bad box 2 attack that has occurred. Then we talk about the fluent. So the attack surface is not very big or very major, kind of the threat which gets exploited. It becomes a simple a password or a shared login or a miscredential or a stolen credential or a simple port that has been left open or a switch that has been open or you have not properly shut down. It could be any simple, such kind of open or flaws or weaknesses that get exploited ultimately lead to a major attack like this. The Snowflake data breach due to misconfiguration of IoT devices and the cloud in which they got connected, that is also another popular such cyber incident which has occurred. So this is just to give a glimpse of the popular global and other Indianized trends and key incidents and the trends with which these emerging technologies are being exploited. Now, let us in this session focusing specifically on the three emerging technologies: IoT, cloud, and some of the common these emerging technologies to and more popular as such, is to counter.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking in between. We have gaps in that, so please kindly check that.
Uh, these and what are best practices to counter from these particular threats as such.
Madam, you are not audible.
Start.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am.
Starting being the one setting. Hello.
Your voice is breaking, ma'am, and in between we are losing your voice also.
Is the
Yes, ma'am. Now it's, I mean, we are able to hear you, but during
yeah,
the
I think now
presentation
it is
in
clear,
between.
na? I've just
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Voice is clear.
Okay. So coming to the common threats in IoT as such from various standards, referring to various standards and seeing the popular threat reports and the key incidents that have been occurred in which these IoT devices and applications get affected as such. The most popular one being creating the botnets, which actually create a large scale distributed denial of service attacks. So this has become one of the most popular IoT threat that takes care of control of the insecure IoT devices. Then we have the ransomware attack, which actually encrypts the data or locks the IoT devices and decrypt it or to unlock it. Payments are demanded, and these kinds of attacks mostly target industrial IoT or smart infrastructure, where we had talked about the recent smart city ransomware attack and the bad box 2 attacks also, which were a major attack as such. So cryptojacking attack is another such attack where a malware hijacks the IoT devices processing the power to mine the cryptocurrency. Usually it is not known to the owner as such, and it is much later only it is possible to detect as such. Then we have the spyware or surveillance malware. Many of the cameras that we keep, the burglar alarms that we keep, the devices that we normally use for our surveillance, for ethical surveillance
Lakshmi
and
ma'am,
normal this. So these kind of also
Lakshmi ma'am,
provide the
may I
attackers.
interrupt you? Madam, your PPT is not visible. Can you please share your PPT?
Okay, I'll again share. Yeah,
Thank you.
let me again share. Is it now visible?
Yeah, it is
Yes,
visible,
ma'am.
ma'am. Make it full screen. Make it full
Yeah.
screen. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I have done full state. Yeah.
All right, ma'am. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what, so like that. So then we have the most common being the distributed denial of service, which compromises many of the IoT devices and it targets the service or infrastructure at large. The FOTA exploits are also being increasingly being used, where we talk about the firmware over the air, where the attackers hijack update channels to push malicious firmware to IoT devices as such. So where we, whether it is mostly it is like the supply chain of the compromise which gets compromised when we talk about this updating the IoT channels as such. Throughout the supply chain, any one device gets this, and through the API and their interfaces they try to update into the attack surface as such. The brute force attack or the credential stuffing, where automatic login attempts on IoT devices using through simple weak credentials or unsecure credentials or shared credentials, they try to provide this they try to do this kind of attack. DNS hijacking via IoT gateways, this is also through whenever there is a normal traffic, the legitimate domains they get compromised through IoT connected routers or gateways, and weak credentials or through unopened ports which gets trafficked through this. Data exfiltration tools, this is another attack where sensitive data from smart devices, whether it is your industrial IoT systems, smart devices, consumer products, whether it could be your as a simple smart lock or a thermostat or a burglar alarm, any simple consumer device like that, or even your medical devices, sensors, all of these get exfiltrated through tools like that. So side channel attack is another attack where the device normal operations such as power consumption patterns or electromagnetic emissions are targeted, and these attacks can reveal encryption keys or other sensitive information through that. MITM or the MIMA, man in the middle attack, is another popular attack through the supply chain of an IoT infrastructure infra, where the attacker tries to intercept and relay the communications between one user and another, one network and another, or between two parties communicating with each other. And through that interception, it tries to misconfigure or send other information, or deviate or reveal that information to other attackers as such, and tries to take hold of the communication. The supply chain attack, as I am mentioning it, in all these attacks, it mostly, when we talk about the IoT, it mostly ends up in being a supply chain attack, where any one of the supply chain of that vendor systems, their hardware or the software, either in the end usage or during the manufacturing process, any of the time, the attacker tries to gain control of any one such IoT device through that supply chain, and the malware gets infiltrated, malware gets inserted, and accordingly they infiltrate into the system. The phishing or the eavesdrop kind of attack is also very easily possible through this supply chain for the IoT devices and its communication channels, and sensitive information of the user as well as the network or the devices can get eavesdropped, and accordingly the attack can happen. The replay attack is another attack for further extending or man in the middle attack, where malicious packets can be captured and resent to electronic equipment disguised using a genuine or original authenticated messages in the form of that particular information as such. So out of these, we can say all of these ultimately end up, the most common among all of these threats is the supply chain, the botnet and the ransomware, and when any one means of this threat attack is used to perform those kinds of threats for IoT devices. Let me take a case study of a supply chain compromise of the Bad Box 2 IoT attack, which had compromised uncertified Android devices in very recent, which occurred in July 2025 only. So, what was the attack scenario? If we see that, so there were some factory uncertified Android IoT, not branded, not certified, whether it could be Google or any other. We are not trying to mention it should be only this certified, or it should be some authenticated, certified, and branded IoT device, not from any local or uncertified or not standard as such. So in that kind of devices where they compromised through pre-installed. So because why we say branded or we need to take a certified, because they might be infected with a pre-installed malware, and that's what happened with this Bad Box 2 attack also, where the uncertified Android IoT devices were factory infected with malware, and the attackers got connected to the attacker surface upon the first use. When users basically, when they try to download these from unofficial app stores like the Earn Extra Income and other such apps as such, these pre-installed malware got installed and they joined devices to the Bad Box botnet network. So this the malicious apps got installed whenever such purchase was happening, and the device contacts C2 infrastructure and the server. The command and control was taken upon by the attacker, and that malware turned millions of devices into a global botnet, performing ad click fraud, credential theft, and even DDoS attacks were also conducted through this Bad Box to IoT botnet. So the attackers use the Bad Box management servers to push the updates, exfiltrate data, and rent the devices, and through remote network interface and so on. So what could be the countermeasures to handle such kind of supply chain compromise attacks? The first and most simplest and easiest way to overcome such this, we take standard, branded, and certified IoT devices only. We need to ensure supply chain audits and firmware updates are regularly done. Signed firmware and secure booting is only done. That is also one of the essential parameters to take into account. Allow installations only from official app stores. We should use equivalent tools like the Google Play Protect and so on. Conduct app vetting and permission analysis before installation. Deploy network monitoring, DNS sinkholes, and egress filtering should be there. And IoT anomaly detection systems like IDS and IPS integrated within those particular apps, it should be utilized. Block any suspicious outbound traffic at ISP and the enterprise level only. And most importantly, we should implement the zero trust network access, so that that is even such initial penetration or unidentified one can be possible to be detected at the earliest. Segment isolate the IoT device at the first instant of detection of the particular device in the network. So segment IoT devices, clearly the segmentation, IoT segmentation and networking should be well done so that we are able to isolate the device at the first instant of detection. Enforce rate limiting to prevent misuse in DDoS, and many such things. So what I would want to do is to show this continuously. Let me play you a quick recap of this particular attack and the best practices that can be adopted for this. First, we will see the case study, and then in detail, and then we will go into the particular best practices of the same. Let me confirm it is audio is coming.
Madam, it's coming, but it's very low, ma'am.
Let me increase it. Yeah, just a minute. Let me increase it. Yeah. Is it visible?
It's visible, ma'am. Audio.
In the previous module, we
It's okay,
explored
ma'am.
Now
Yeah.
clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we will understand it better through a real-world case study. The Badbox 2.0 incident turned millions of IoT devices into a botnet that generated fake traffic and stole money from the advertisers.
Mr. Ravi is an ordinary office worker living in a busy city. Every evening, he switches on his smart TV while his children watch cartoons. The digital photo frame displays family memories. Sometimes the family connects a projector for movies. Even his car has a smart infotainment screen. To Ravi, these are simple modern comforts. These devices belong to the Internet of Things, IoT, smart TVs, streaming boxes, projectors, digital frames, and car systems, all connected to the Internet. In 2025, researchers uncovered a hidden operation called Badbox 2.0. This was a massive global botnet affecting more than 10 million Android-based IoT devices. What made this attack dangerous was its origin. The malware was not downloaded by users. It was already embedded in device firmware during manufacturing. When Ravi bought his smart TV and connected it to Wi-Fi, the malicious code silently activated. At night, the TV generated fake ad clips. The photo frame forwarded hidden internet traffic. The car system leaked login credentials. Everything appeared normal, but behind the scenes, Ravi's home had become part of a global botnet controlled remotely by cybercriminals. Badbox 2.0 exposed weaknesses in device manufacturing, certification, and security testing. It revealed how low-cost, uncertified devices can carry invisible risks. Smart technology without security is not innovation, it is vulnerability. Cybersecurity is now a shared responsibility of manufacturers, governments, and users. Let us examine the incident in detail. Step 1. Factory level infection. The attack began inside the factory. Attackers accessed the firmware building system and inserted malware. Step 2. User purchase. Ravi bought a low cost smart TV online. It arrived sealed and appeared genuine. He powered it on and connected it to Wi Fi. The setup screen appeared normally. There were no warning signs. Step 3. Malware activation and C2 connection. After Ravi completed the setup process, the device restarted for the first time. During this boot process, the hidden malware automatically activates. Once active, the malware contacted a remote server controlled by the attacker. This remote server is known as a command and control C2 server. The C2 server now makes the device a part of the botnet. Ravi continued using his TV normally, unaware that the device had already joined a remote controlled network. Step 4. Attack execution. After connecting to the C2 server, the device began receiving commands. Ravi's TV secretly generated fake ad clicks in the background. Other infected devices acted as proxies, routed criminal traffic, or joined DDoS attacks as directed by the attacker. Individually, they seemed normal, but together they formed a coordinated botnet. While users noticed nothing unusual, it is unsettling to think that a brand new device could work against you from the moment it is plugged in. But why is it so important to address these invisible threats? The impact goes far beyond one household. Importance of addressing issue. Ravi looked at smart devices in his home and realized how dangerous they could be if left unsecured. He understood that this issue was not just technical, it was about protecting privacy, trust, and safety. Unsecured devices could silently harm families and businesses. He hoped companies would build safer products and that people would become more aware and cautious in the digital world. Working in technology, weak passwords and devices create attacks. If devices left, criminals could walk into homes without opening a door. He wanted people to become aware, careful, and strong in the digital world, so that smart devices would remain helpful companions, not silent threats.
We have seen how a single compromised device can form a part of a botnet army and can affect millions. In the next module, we will focus on best practices and safeguards to prevent such scenarios.
So as we were talking about, we can see that how this attack penetrated with a simple, weak credentials and simple uncertified device usage. And when we talk about our smart infra being used, whether
Ma'am, your voice is not audible, ma'am. Lakshmi, madam.
it is traffic on the road, what
Ma'am,
am I
your voice.
audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible now.
Yeah. So that's what. So when we talk about the best practices or the security measures, what could be to be used, these can be discussed from two perspectives. One, as a general user, as a layman user in our daily usage of our homes, devices, and on the road as such, what could be that? And as a technically, if you are a security professional, incident responder, network administrators, or developers, what could we do? So when we discussed as such, we can do it like buy only for general users, buy only certified branded IoT devices. We should avoid uncertified imports or local apps which are be not certified or not authenticated app stores, not to be taken from that. Keep firmware and software updates regularly. It is already coming up, but we don't do
Ma'am,
that. So that
PPT.
can be done. Hello?
Sorry for interrupting, ma'am. Your PPT is not visible, ma'am.
Let me share again, please. Just a moment. Yeah, I think it should be visible now.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Yeah. So continuing with the case study of the Bad Box 2 IoT attack that we had discussed and these best practices, let us see these best practices now in a similar manner as we had just seen in the video as such.
In the previous session, in about supply chain compromise and example case study. In this session, let us get to know the security methods that are already in place and the best practices that we should follow to safely use the IoT devices. Let's get started.
When the Bandbox attack began, users like Ravi noticed nothing unusual. But engineers detected abnormal traffic, thousands of smart devices sending constant data at odd hours. Security tools began raising alerts. Google's Play Protect blocked some malicious apps on certified devices, but many cheap, uncertified devices had no protection. Researchers analyzed the malware, traced it to global servers, and shared findings with authorities. Agencies like the Federal Bureau of Investigation issued warnings, while Google and international teams worked to shut down attacker servers. Although the botnet was weakened and new infections reduced, millions of devices remained compromised. The lesson was clear. If devices are insecure from the factory, security tools may respond too late. To truly fix the problem, we first have to understand the gaps that let it happen in the first place. Even after security teams discovered bad box, stopping it was not easy. The first problem was the devices themselves. Most of them were cheap and unbranded. They were not certified by Google or any major authority. Because of this, many devices did not have Play Protect. They did not receive regular security updates. Some did not support updates at all. So even when the malware was found, it could not be removed. Normal antivirus software was useless. Factory reset or restarting did nothing. The infection always came back. Then there was the size of the attack. Devices were spread across many countries, different laws, different companies, and different languages. Shutting down everything at once was impossible. In many homes, people never even knew they were part of the botnet. After the bad box incident became public, Mr. Ravi started thinking differently about his smart devices. He realized that convenience should never come without caution. He decided to change his habits. By following a few simple habits, you can also protect your devices and your data. That is why the following do's and don'ts are important for every smart device user. Do's: buy trusted vendor certified IoT devices from official sources. Check online reviews for reported security issues. Keep devices updated with the latest firmware and software. Change default passwords to strong, unique ones. Review app permissions before installing applications. Don't ignore software or firmware updates. Don't install apps from unknown or unofficial websites. Don't reuse passwords across devices or accounts. Don't connect IoT devices to sensitive office networks. Don't ignore unusual device behavior such as overheating or excessive data usage. Small precautions can make a significant difference in reducing exposure to cyber threats. Secure device communication. Transport layer security, TLS, secure socket layer, SSL, may be enforced for all data transmission between IoT devices, servers, and apps. Network segmentation. IoT devices may always be separated from the main network. Botnet detection and mitigation. Intrusion detection, systems IDS, intrusion prevention systems, IPS, and anomaly detection may be deployed to catch unusual traffic from IoT devices. Secure APIs. Strict authentication and input validation may be implemented. Zero trust approach. Every device needs to be validated. Logging and monitoring. The logs of systems and applications should be maintained, analyzed, and monitored to meet compliance with Information Technology Act 2000 and DPDP Act 2023. Timely patch management. Security patches may be applied as and when available. Acquiring software bill of material SBOM and hardware bill of material HBOM from supplier to understand component associated with software or hardware. Firmware integrity and secure boot. Code signing and secure boot mechanisms may be used to ensure only trusted firmware runs. Secure over-the-air OTA updates. Encrypted over-the-air updates with certificate validation may be ensured to prevent hijacking. Strong authentication. Unique device IDs, robust passwords, and multi-factor authentication may be implemented. Secure error handling. Data leakage will be prevented through safe logging, watchdog timers, and secure partitioning. Privacy by design. Minimal data collection and compliance with Digital Personal Act 2023 may be ensured, providing transparent user consent mechanism.
Bad Box 2.0 was more than just an attack. It was a global wake-up call. It reminded us that developers build the foundation, security engineers guard the doors, and users must stay vigilant. When all three work together, innovation remains safe and reliable. Let's do a final knowledge check to ensure you're ready to step forward into a more
So continuing with that, so we can just say that there is one simple thing that can be utilized when we can follow upon the countermeasure or the best practice when we talk about this IoT as such. Let me take a simple scenario example of our smart TVs that we use at our homes, or even smart monitors that we use in our organizations and so on. So we keep them switched on even at nights, or even when we are not using it. So that if we can simply switch it off when it is not going to be in use, when we are not using it, that could be one simple measure to start with, along with all these best practices that we are discussing as such. So continuing with, this was some simple case study and some of the best practices for one of the emerging technologies and ever expansion that is happening with Internet of Things IoT. Next, let us discuss few threats and some of such case studies and best practices for artificial intelligence, the most upcoming and the ever emerging technologies that we are recently facing with. So what could be the common cyber threats with AI? If you see, this can be categorized into three categories for AI. One, the AI driven social engineering threats. That is one of the very popular that is happening. Another category of the AI threats could be the adversarial and model specific attacks that exist. Some of the more, advanced and technical kind of the attacks that we can talk about is this adversarial attacks that are happening with the model being used in an adversarial manner as such for AI. And the third category being the AI system exploitation and the supply chain attacks that happen with that of the AI. So these three categories, if we talk about, coming to the first and the most popular, if we can talk about, being the AI driven social engineering threats that are happening, are the AI powered phishing attacks, which generate highly personalized, accurate, context specific emails that actually mimic the original trusted individuals and their recipients and perform the fraud, and it looks as if it is a original email coming up from an original user as such. Then we talk about the deep fakes, which use our synthetic audio or the video to impersonate executives, public figures, popular figures, organizations, institutions, trying to defame them and facilitate identity based deception, and are being popularly used to perform financial fraud scams and so on. We have another popular such attack which is being done with the voice, which we call it as the wishing attacks, which employ AI cloned voices in real time phone calls to impersonate trusted contacts and extract sensitive information or funds. We many a times leave our voice messages and so on, openly recording and keeping them available for misuse like that. Disinformation campaigns leveraging AI to produce and distribute fake news and fake information, misinformation, and disinformation categories of that, fabricated networks, social media content at scale to mislead and influence various kinds of opinions as such. Psychological manipulation is also being as one of the popular AI used social engineering threat that is being done, where an AI driven interaction is being used, especially it is being used popularly in generative AI kind of ways, where they influence the human thought process, where they influence the human behavior as such, and ultimately lead into measurable behavioral and emotional harm as such for individual users. Advanced credential attacks, where ML models are being used to analyze the patterns of how the passwords are being set up, generate highly probable guessable mechanisms to guess the original existing passwords as such, drastically reducing the time required to crack any credential used where the random guessing. So we can say that the AI generated brute force attack, if we are going to use it, it becomes very easy, and the time taken to guess that password becomes much less. Another category of the AI based threats are the adversarial and model specific attacks, where it is a malicious technique where subtle or simple alterations or perturbations can be used deliberately to input data to trick any kind of ML model into making incorrect or unintended predictions as such. So these can be done through prompt injections, data poisoning attacks, and adversaries like that creating hidden modifications or in the AI model or the ML model, machine language model as such, where they make incorrect predictions. You prompt them to do that. Model inversion is possible. Data exfiltration, DDoS attack, where AI coordinated botnets can be used to launch adaptive high volume traffic floods, can be used to target an entire infrastructure. And sponge attack is another kind of attack where the resource intensive inputs to drain the original, means we can say this can be used computational capacity or slow down the systems, and or even make a service to be crashed as such, can be utilized. The another category of the AI is the AI system exploitation and supply chain attacks also, which is being used as such, where LLM jacking is most prominent such attack for AI system exploitation, where they steal AI credentials, API credentials, to hijack cloud hosted AI services, bypass safeguards at the legitimate owner's expense, and accordingly perform this kind of attacks as such. Simply inserting malware is another kind of the attack that is being popularly being used as such. Autonomous AI attacks where they execute multi-stage offensive strategies, that is also possible. And model supply chain attack where injecting malicious code into the third-party libraries or publicly available already pre-trained models existing in that of the developers as such, that is also possible as such. LLM jacking, in which we any of the cloud credentials that are being used to hijack, or API keys are being used to attack, where they sell access on the underground markets or leave the legitimate account holder to pay potentially massive ransomware or other kind of bills is also being existing as such. One such case study, if we take the case of the investment scam that has been utilized, was this AI driven misinformation scam as such that was existing. So, continuing with that, let us proceed with how it was utilized, like where a deepfake video of a popular figure was used to perform to announce an investment scam, and many of the users had believed into that this is an original user, you only announcing this particular scam, and it was very popularly used to perform this kind of attack as such. So instead of going into the details of this, let us discuss on the best practices that can be utilized to overcome from such kind of deep fakes that exist, and how one can identify and use it as such. So again, just as we can categorize the threats into various categories for the technology, we can also categorize our best practices which are to be followed, which become the best solutions to handle it, into what can be used for a general user, simple cybersecurity professionals, or the developers as such, what it can be utilized as such. So when as a general user, we should verify first all the endorsements that are coming, whether it is through official channels only, whether it is an authorized site, authorized person, and so on. Question unrealistic returns that they claim. In this particular scam, it was like 53,000 per day, that would be, you will be gaining in return, that was announced as such. Look for deepfake signs where are simple lip mismatch between the lip and the audio that is coming up, lip sync that is there. Facial glitches, if we can observe properly, if we can observe minutely, we can see the glitches that exist in the facial expressions within, whether it is the eyebrows or the eye counter that is going to happen, the lip sync that exists. These can be some of the signs. We will see more in detail. Reports as per suspicious such videos should be immediately reported to the cybercrime portals and the according organizations as such immediately. Similarly, threat intelligence patterns can need to be continuously maintained to identify the deepfake. There are many such tools that exist nowadays, whether it is reverse image search, Tinai, Claim Buster, and Quint. Many such tools are existing by which one can verify the authenticity, check upon the pattern, and identify whether it is original or whether it is a deepfake or not. One can use such tools to identify that. Rapid response protocols with LEAs in coordination with that can need to be immediately done, so that to minimize the spread of it. 24/7 social media monitoring for impersonation. There are tools being utilized for that, which can need to be continuously implemented and monitored for such usage. Emergency content takedown procedures, which are also being nowadays followed, need to be done. As a developer, if you want to talk about like integrate defect detection APIs within the models itself, where tools like these can be utilized, implement blockchain authentication so that it cannot be further penetrated as such, automate AI content flagging for political financial claims, build digital watermarking and forensic tools. So these can also be utilized as such. So before proceeding with the particular further best practices, we will discuss on some of the cyber threats similarly for cloud also. Then we will go into the common best practices for both. Similarly, in case of another major technology that is being continuously used in hybrid mode, and nowadays, if you take about any application, any data, it is there on the cloud. So the popular threats that can exist in the cloud is misconfiguration and inadequate change control. The misconfiguration is the most popular, that where normally whenever we host our services or we buy such cloud services, we normally don't check. That poses a major threat as such. Identity and access management weaknesses that exist, which get easily exploited and gain privilege escalation and other excessive permission to gain unauthorized access. Insecure interfaces and APIs or another such popular threat for cloud. Insecure software development, insecure third party resources being used, accidental cloud disclosure. Many of the time, the sensitive information gets unintentionally exposed due to simple human error, where we have accidentally do, or even with poor security practices as such. We'll see some of the best practices how to overcome these attacks now, kind of threats to identify and handle. Unpatched software system vulnerabilities that exist, that increase within the cloud workloads also exist, which can gain unauthorized access, execute malicious code, or even disrupt the majority of the services. Inadequate cloud security strategy implementation, that is also there due to improper data handling, lack of encryption, exposure of sensitive assets, or increasing in the which increase ultimately in the risk of data breaches as such. Limited cloud visibility and observability. We normally people keep insufficient monitoring and logging capabilities, which is not done in a 24/7 manner as such, which at times makes undetected various suspicious activities or the ongoing attacks, especially the malware attacks, where the free malware which they use authenticated or legitimate sources, and which becomes very difficult to identify that such kind of attacks. Unauthenticated resource sharing and API, advanced persistent threats, are also one of the popular cyber threat attacks that exist in the cloud as such. There is another such popular case study similarly to that of the cloud, the National Cloud Data Governance and Compliance failures that had happened, and where again the most prominent such attack occurred because of SSA cloud upload exposure, where interagency data transfer had occurred without proper security controls, and the encryption and deployed without independent oversight as such. Lack of compliance validation was also one of the major issue, because of which it was easily able to be bypassed within the national security frameworks. Lack of continuous monitoring and audit trail for uploaded data sets, which led to potential exposure of some of the popular and user numbers as such. Exposure of large scale sensitive data as a result of that, which because of which the user credentials, user sensitive information was completely exposed to that of this. So what could be the countermeasures? Enforce a strict approval and compliance verification processes before any data upload happens. Implement automated encryption enforcement for data both at rest as well as while in transit. Use cloud security posture management and automated compliance tools like Azure policy, AWS config, etc. needs to be utilized. Adopt zero trust architecture and continuous C monitoring access national across the national environments. Enforce interagency audits, DLP controls, and detailed access logging as such. to be done where to handle as such for sensitive data transfers as such that has to be done. Let us see now the few best practices in as such. So continuing with all of that, what could be the best solution? Cyber resilience assessment is one of the best solutions that needs to be done. So there has to be a continuous assessment of the existing cyber security posture for both as an individual, its systems, as well as for the organizations. This assessment has to be continuously done. Risk based prioritization, when we talk about the threats and the various categories that we have that we are just seeing as such, there has to be based on, we have to have a risk matrix of the low level, high level, and medium risk that exists, and accordingly our security controls to be enforced and implemented based on those kind of priorities as such to be done. Multi defense strategies, one strategy may not fit all, and accordingly one strategy may not be enough to implement for this. So we need to employ upon multi defense strategies to implement a high security environment, so that even at one layer, at one level, or at one application or device, if it has been compromised, it can still be stopped, and you can still stop its further penetration and isolate it and separate it from further expansion as such. All these solutions will not be effective or will not be possible to be implemented until and unless there is awareness creation and there is awareness trainings, where and these kind of webinars are for that kind of, that is the purpose with the help of which we try to implement the same. That is protect, adopt, perform. This is the what we call the cyber security posture or the solution that one need to adopt for any such technology and its usage that we use as such. We need to have protective mechanisms. We need to adapt our mechanisms with newer threats that are coming it up, and try to test, assessment, prioritize, and assess its particular performance continuously, so that newer strategies and newer AI integrated cybersecurity strategies can be utilized, so that they have a lesser time of implementing the same. So this is one such solution that one needs to adopt. When we talk about this awareness, as I said, if we have many security tools, monitoring mechanisms, all the solutions in place, but if we are not aware of it, then it is of no use. So awareness and knowledge dissemination is one of the major parameter with the help of which many of the cybersecurity threats and incidents can be curtailed. So one of the mighty sponsored project in which we are working on is like we are developing certain best practices. Some of the videos that we have just seen is part of those particular project only, where we are developing certain best practices to handle the various secure cyber threats, categorize those cyber threats for emerging technologies like IoT, AI, and cloud. And for different kinds of cyber threats, we are talking about the best practices that could be implemented through these videos and various courses that are going to be uploaded on igot. And we are also releasing quarterly newsletters. This is the newsletter pamphlet that we are going to be sending to all, and one can scan on this, and the quarterly newsletters will be available to read, in which simple do's, don'ts, and quick tips are available on certain kind of threats. On every quarter, few threats are being addressed, and this can be utilized, and this is being shared to be implemented, both the soft version and the hard copy of the same being put up on the notice boards in various organizations, government organizations, that we are being done as such. So these kind of videos we are now creating as part of the best practices to be developed and to be hosted in igot in the coming month as such. Now let us see one quick view of another best practices that one needs to follow, where we had seen that different categories of threats as such.
ESR. Verify, scrutinize, protect, and report. Verify before you share. If a well-known figure appears to be endorsing a financial product or making a public statement, check their verified official channels before responding or sharing. A convincing video is not confirmation that the content is real. Scrutinize video content. When in doubt, look for unnatural linking, misaligned facial movements, and inconsistencies between leg movement and audio. personal data. Limit the personal photographs, videos, and voice recordings you make publicly available on social media. Reducing your publicly accessible personal data reduces the material available for business. And report what you find. If you encounter content that appears to be a deepfake, report it on the platform immediately. Now, let us look at for developers and security. Design AI systems with built-in safety controls like content filtering and misuse prevention. Implement deepfake detection models for image, video, and audio analysis. Use digital watermarking, media provenance tracking to verify authenticity. Apply strict access control and authentication mechanisms. Maintain detailed activity logs for media uploads and notifications. Regularly perform adversarial testing to identify system vulnerabilities. Continuously update models and detection systems against evolving deepfake techniques. Ensure compliance with standards like ISO/IEC 27001 and NIST framework. Now, let us look at how to respond effectively to a deepfake threat. An effective incident response approach aligns with including CERT-IN's advisory on deepfake threats and the advisory to digital intermediary issued by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. A step-wise response protocol can be outlined as follows. Detection and classification. Early identification of suspected deepfake content based on anomalies and contextual inconsistencies. Verification. Use metadata analysis, source validation, and digital forensics to assess authenticity before any action. Containment. Restrict further dissemination of suspected content during the verification process. Communication. Inform affected individuals and stakeholders through verified and controlled channels. Coordination. Work with platforms, intermediaries, and relevant authorities in line with legal procedures. Innovation. Please evidence proper documentation for investigation and legal. Post-incident review. Analyze gaps and detection and response mechanisms for future. Finally, let us look at some simple do's and don'ts for deepfake awareness. Verify content before trusting or sharing. Use AI-based detection and monitoring tools. Educate teams and users about deepfake risks. Secure personal and organizational media data. Follow zero trust and least privilege risks. Don't rely solely on visual inspection. Don't share unverified viral content. Don't ignore early warning signs or anomalies. Don't expose excessive personal media data publicly. Don't delay response to suspected deepfake incidents. It is important to remember that although deepfakes are a growing and evolving AI-driven threat, the same AI-driven technology that enables their creation can also be leveraged for detection and defense. Addressing this challenge requires a combination of awareness, careful verification of digital content, and responsible use of technology. Effective mitigation depends on coordinated efforts from users, developers, platforms. In an increasingly digital world, staying informed, cautious, and proactive is essential to reducing the risks associated with deepfake technology.
So just to end into that, so what I would say, like, is it visible? Just a moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. So that's what I've just removed. So this is what I would want to end the session now with a simple thought like VSPR is not only for when we talk about for deepfakes or AI based threats as such. VSPR can be actually utilized for every, that should be the approach that we should handle. That should be the best practice that one should use for any kind of cyber threat or the risk that one wants to identify and protect oneself from. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, madam, for so clearly and extensively covering the cyber threats possible with the emerging technologies and the possible prevention mechanisms and the safety practices which can be taken up by the digital users to safeguard themselves in this current digital scenario. Thank you once again. I would request you to take a few questions which have been posted by the users in the chat box, ma'am.
Okay.
One of which, let me go through that. Yeah. One of the questions asked by Mr. R is, since 79% of the threats are malware free, what security measures should organizations prioritize beyond antivirus solutions? Ma'am,
Can you please repeat? Yeah, it was breaking from my end. Can you just
yeah.
repeat? What was that? Yeah, please
Since
repeat.
79% of threats are malware free, what security measures should organizations provide? Yeah.
Yeah, though, yeah, many of these are going to be conducted like that, but the most essential security measures one can use is use security scanners like Microsoft Defenders and so on. One needs to keep automatic updates on, whether it is our OS, web browsers, and applications that we are using as such. That needs to be continuously done, because we mostly don't do it even for the USBs that we are regularly using. We don't do that. We need to surf on the web very safely, protect the networks, keep a backup of the particular data, and have clear IDS and IBS with AI integration, which can immediately identify such kind of malwares, and with the help of the zero trust mechanisms. These are the only things I think, as far as I know.
The next question, ma'am, by the same person, what are the most common tactics used by bad actors to gain initial access, considering that 52% of the attacks target this stage?
Yeah, but many of the attacks will actually get happened in the initial access only, and that is what is the breakout time that we were talking about as such. And the most common method that they try to use is compromise the systems through stolen credentials or the legitimate tools, which we were calling about as the malware free attack. That is the initial, the first stage where they're trying to get unauthorized entry with the help of these only. So for example, it could be like, if a simple phishing and social engineering methods are also used to perform this initial attack, where they use the stolen credentials, or it could be an attack where they try to scan the internet and try to find out any unpatched or outdated software or hardware, and identify those security gap and break through into the system. So these are the most common ways by which they try to do, or they can try to identify any exposed remote service which is existing using unsecured remote working tools and remote desktops that are existing, and through that also gain entry into the system. This is the initial, the way by which they try to do that, and further they expand into a lateral movement.
Ma'am, there is something Ms. Pallav Mukherjee is asking. Kindly brief again about 79% malware free. I'm not sure. Maybe you understand the question better, ma'am.
Yeah, see, 79% malware free, which means that we are talking about these are those attacks which are not identified by traditional malware tools. That is what we are talking about here, where we say that the attackers actually use the legitimate tools, the stolen credentials, or your, built-in features only, and that's why the traditional the antivirus tools are not able to identify. So what we are proposing is we should use the adopt mechanisms like the behavioral detection behavioral detection tools, like your UEBA, we call that as the user and entity behavior analytics, to be deployed, so that these kind of malware free kinds of approach which the attackers use can be detected at the earliest instance as such. That's what we are talking about here, because we are now again nowadays talking about the living of the land kind of the measures as such. So that is what we mean by when we say malware free kind of the attack. So if we say, it is like where the adversaries evade the detection by using your own pre-installed legitimate authenticate tools, and whether, let us say, for example, your PowerShell and so on, and then they execute malicious activities. So it becomes difficult to identify or detect.
Ma'am, here there's one question by Mr. Ashish Garg, and there is also, I think, a discussion on that. What about anthropic mythos, which can identify loopholes in your
Yes,
IT,
yes.
and hackers
Yeah.
can hit you even it can hack NASA website? What are we doing for it?
Yes, yes. This is the definitely the one which this, but I need to work upon that. I have not much studied, means worked on this as such. Not
Okay,
gone
Mr.
into that.
Rajat
Yeah.
Sharma has also
But I
replied,
agree,
I
yes,
think.
anthropic mythos is there, which has no breach as such, and we need to further study on that. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, unable to appear. Kind. Ma'am, that's it, ma'am. I think we've covered the questions also. And once again, I thank you for the wonderful session, and I thank all the participants for making this program a success. Thank you, everyone. We shall now close this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I request the participants to please access the online